Hello and welcome to I Mustache You Something.
Is that your real mustache?
That is a real mustache.
Wow, look at you. Fancy schmancy.
Oh, Pasha.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I accidentally bought the dyed one from Amazon because I just clicked and the one that I got when I did like the previous series was the clear one. Um, so my mustache looks similar even though it really shouldn't because like my mustache is now all white. So hopefully by the time we record next time, I'll have the au natural, the gray one. But this one, at least it looks like,
Yeah, it does.
yeah, it looks like something from you know, like a poster or something.
So you got your Captain America t-shirt on, eh?
Yep.
Look at
Very
you.
patriotic.
Yeah,
Look
yeah,
at
yeah.
you.
I gotta fill in for Mitch because
Where is
uh,
Mitch?
Mitch
Is he
has the
dead?
flu.
Is he
Mitch has
dead?
the flu.
Is he
So,
dead?
well, I mean, we today's Sunday the 21st. This is the episode that's going to post on Monday the 22nd.
I thought we
Uh,
were ahead by one episode.
yeah, that was last week.
Oh, that was last week.
That was last week. Um,
Yep.
so I was thinking at some point, if we get our act together, we can do a live episode.
Oh,
What do you think of
whoa.
that? Wouldn't that be awesome? Like we'd have like
You need to behave.
no. Well, I mean, no more than usual.
Yeah, hopefully no more than usual. It'd be horrible.
So yeah, Mitch is under the weather, and the show must go on. And it's honestly his question that we're continuing. Um,
Which one's that?
so so you and I, counseled him. Briefly, Sharif had to drop off, but he had posed the question and his concern for his fellow men that are in unhappy marriages.
Oh,
And he said something along the lines of, "Well, that's when I would lay down the law." And you and I were like, um, so yeah, I think, we've dealt with some heavy topics, and why not this one? Um,
no.
so uh, Sharif, you hadn't weighed in. Do you have thoughts, counsel, guidance for the young men out there who signed up for something and all of a sudden it's very different than they expected?
Well, that's normal.
Why is it normal?
We need we need to normalize lack of expectation or unmet expectation.
So I have a lot to say, but I want to hold back. So what are these unmet expectations in your estimation?
Like in marriage, in service, at work,
Yeah.
like you sign up for something and then it's not. So you feel frustrated because your expectations are unmet. But that's the nature of life. We are going into a series of unmet expectation, and that's how we grow. We change expectation, we change our behavior, we change our attitude. And I don't want to say from a faith perspective, but everything everything is made by God, even if we don't understand it, even if we don't like it, even we are like destroying it by our action. But at the end, there is a providence, and we need to work through this providence, economia, or the economy of our life. It's a series of unmet expectation.
So I'll fill in for Mitch, and I'll
Okay.
say, yeah, yeah, yeah. You planned poorly. As he would put it, you didn't play Moneyball. You didn't choose the right spouse. You didn't choose the right service.
Well, that's
Um,
wrong. There is no right spouse and there is no right surface. That's the issue.
Listen, I'm just filling in for Mitch here. Like I
Okay.
like I wish I had the flu. If I had the flu, it would be Mitch sitting here with this beautiful mustache telling
Okay.
you guys what he has on his mind. But it's a legitimate concern, and I I don't necessarily agree with him, but I understand the temptation to say, this is something that I can fix. This is something that I can predict. This is something that, if I play my cards right and I can weigh the pros and cons, or I can manage the situation in the moment, then I don't need to be disappointed. Ralph.
Well, I mean, there is, listen. I think people are disappointed because they don't have certain conversations before they get married. I think we don't take marriage seriously. I think we're sort of stuck in some, fake romantic notion, of you like someone, she's attractive, you're sexually attracted to her, or she's fun or laughs at all your jokes, and then you think, okay, well, this is the one. I got married at a late age, because no one, in my mind, even though I, hung out with a lot of people, but no one sort of like filled anything that I thought was okay. Well, they were all sort of similar. Everyone was like sort of the same, and if you have real conversations and people know who you are and you get to know who they are, you'll have bumps in the road, you'll have problems, you'll have the usual, everyday existence, but to sort of be surprised. I mean, I guess people can lie, but if you're old enough and you realize who's lying and who's not, then you can manage expectations and then stay basically, you know, uh satisfied uh to to a certain degree. I mean, don't you think that that's and I do think that there's a right person. There's no perfect person because I'm not perfect, but there's the right person. And I used to sell cars before law school, right? And we had yeah, Saturns, and we used to
We're shocked.
and we used to have a saying that there's an ass for every seat, and there's in the marriage world there's an ass for every ass. So there is a right person who meets your needs if you're not afraid to talk about things like the future or financial expectations or sexual expectations or job expectations or familial expectations. Like me and Emery talked about which holidays are we going to spend with her people and which holidays we're going to spend with my people. I mean, it's sort of like that. you know, it is a marriage contract that you're entering into, and I'm not saying this because I'm a lawyer. I think in those terms, but I think if we all, you know, I mean, it might be too late for all of us, whether if we did our pre-game work, you know, but for the three people who are listening and the one person who's not yet married, if if like Sharif said, it is providence, but it is also, God put someone in your life, and that might not be the right person at the time. You don't have to, you know, and that might be something wrong with the Coptic Church mentality. Is if okay, if you're dating somebody and you are, I always get happy when engagements break off. Don't you?
Yeah.
I think it's the
Yes.
best thing in the world.
Yeah. Better now than later, right?
Yeah, better now
Yeah,
than
yeah.
later.
Absolutely.
Like those are brave
Absolutely.
people that do that. All right, so now
Absolutely.
you stop holding back and tell me what you think.
But let me kind of correct myself. It's not there is no right person. There is not the one right person.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a romantic fallacy
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree 100%.
that A must meet B.
Yeah,
No,
yeah. There's no soulmate.
Right.
there's no soulmate.
Yeah.
There might be a lot of right people, but there's a
Yes.
lot more wrong people,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
right?
So,
Like imagine the percentage of women that's going to tolerate this guy.
Yeah,
It's
I know. It's very small. All of us are in that very, very small thing.
right, right. Like
the issue is once you get into the marriage contract, that's in my belief, that's a suitable person.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Like,
so
and
so
and we need to work it out.
Yes.
So here's what I think is implicit in everything that you're saying and in what Mitch was implying that I think is a fundamental flaw is that we're saying that there's a contract, there's an agreement, The other person needs to be honest, and we need to enter into a shared agreement. And what I think is underappreciated, and this is where I mustache you something. To what extent did you not even know yourself? For sure, I think you had no idea what marriage was like. I think we knew that. You didn't really know the other person as well.
Why, you grew up in a cave? Did you have parents? Did you see what they were? Did you see what that was like?
No, no. So what I'm saying is, you know that marriage is going to be hard, right? But you didn't know what it was like to be the person
No.
in the marriage, right? Like you have no
Yeah.
concept of what it's
Right.
like. It's like, sports or,
Yeah.
careers or whatever. People ask me like, "Oh, what's it like to be an orthopedic surgeon?" And I'm like, "Listen, like
Come and
you,
see.
right, you'd have to like I don't think I knew what it was to be an orthopedic surgeon until I was in practice for like
Yeah.
8 years. And then I'm like, oh, this is what we're doing here, right?
Hmm.
And it takes a lot of not just discovery of the outside environment and whether it's a career or service or marriage, it's also a discovery of what's inside,
Right. Yes. Yeah.
right? And I think we're misrepresenting ourselves if we say that our main concern is that the other person is honest,
No, no,
right?
you got to be honest too.
But not even that. Like there's a limit, right? Like there's like a like if we're gonna get theological, we bring in Saint Gregory of Nyssa and Life of Moses, right? And as he ascends the mountain, right, he's ascending in a cloud of darkness, right? And nobody has seen Moses the way Saint sorry, nobody has seen God the way that Moses has seen God. And even he's still sort of grasping in the dark, right? So, like, you talk to one of the uncles or grandpas or whoever that's been married for 50 years, that man is grasping in the dark like Moses in the cloud, right?
Yeah, but but take that reality, right? Because we all grow and we change but take that reality and then put it up against not having any idea of what the contract is, not having any idea of
Right.
does she want kids, does she not want kids, does she want to work, does she not want to
Sure.
work? Well, I
And
mean,
I'm
imagine when you don't have that,
Right.
then you're
I'm
just
not like so same as like when we talk about apophatic approaches, like the not knowing of God, the immeasurable,
yeah,
unknowable, right? All that stuff that Saint Gregory of Nyssa, invites us into experiencing. It doesn't mean that we forget the cataphatic knowledge of God, like in the Greed, Saint
right,
Athanasius, Saint Cyril, all these other people telling us who God is are balanced by the people that are telling us who God isn't. And the same with careers, marriage, service, whatever it is that we're entering into. Yes, by all means, weigh the pros and cons, have an agreement, have some sense, right? Don't just
yeah,
show up in medical school or law school or whatever school thinking that, oh, I'll sort it out when I get there. Like, no, no, do your homework, but just understand that not only do you not know the thing that you're entering into well enough, right? And then later you're going to blame the thing, right? You're going to blame medicine, you're going to blame your spouse, you're going to blame the service, you're going to blame somebody else for not living up to their end of the contract. Meanwhile, you're a different person than you were a year ago,
right. Hopefully.
hopefully. Hopefully for the better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's what I think I think is the hardest part is not so much the, unmet expectations. It's the, well, like who are you really disappointed in, right?
But
Like,
the very real situation Mitch talked about, which I'm sure is prevalent, what do you what do you blame that on? Like where's that coming from? Is it coming from um I
So
don't know, where
what's the real situations that Mitch was talking about? Because I think I
yeah, say it, Mina.
no, you say it, Ralph.
Sort of like being in a loveless marriage, being in a relationship where you're, you know, hostile roommates, is what I get, right? I mean, am I
It's not
misrepresenting
even
it?
that. Like, I think hostile roommates sometimes has more passion and interest than, two ships, sailing in the night in parallel in the dark. Um,
Mhm.
where everybody's kind of doing their own thing. And these ships were supposed to be one, and it turns out they're two. And they were supposed to be sailing into the sunset, but the sun has set and now it's dark. And I don't see the other ship, and I don't see the iceberg coming. And, I think it's very easy to get caught up in all kinds of, especially like having young kids, busy, taking kids to soccer and activities and things like that. Oh, we got to look for colleges, and everybody's busy, and then all of a sudden you look in the mirror, you don't recognize yourself. You look, across the couch, and you don't know who that is. Um, it's not, it's not an uncommon thing.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a
So
common
what's the
scenario.
cause of that? Where's that coming from?
I don't know. I haven't been able to get a straight answer from anyone other than being told it's actually quite common. I'm like, oh yeah, you don't say.
Well, you
Like,
know what else is becoming more common in our church? Divorce.
yeah.
Like I hear about it more and more than, I mean, when I was growing up, I didn't hear about it at all. There's nobody got divorces.
Well, we were
But
just told it
now,
wasn't allowed. Like, Vishaga Smack,
right. And that was
right?
it. And that
That's
was
it.
it.
That was
And
the end of
everyone
the
agreed.
conversation.
And people just prayed for the, that their spouse would meet their eternal glory a lot quicker than the normal average lifespan. But now, so where's that coming from? Is it because we still say divorce is not allowed, but it's being allowed? Like, where's that coming from, Sharif, Mina? Is
Uh,
that is
Sharif is
that
going to have to enlighten us on the.
So you don't like this, Mina, but there are layers to this. I think the
Wait,
first
wait,
layer.
wait, wait, hold
Hmm,
on a second. It's not that I object to layers in general.
okay,
Right? I appreciate that some things are complex, some things are not, right? And
okay.
and and
So,
oversimplifying the
do you
complex
agree that
is
this is a
wrong,
complex
but
topic?
over complexifying the simple is also.
But do you agree that this is a complex and multi-layer topic?
This one is.
Uh,
The other thing
uh,
that we were arguing about over text, which I'm
well,
happy to bring to light if you'd like.
next time when Mitch needs to be there.
Sure, sounds good. We'll
So,
hold off on that one. We don't want him to miss out on that juicy
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah.
so I think we're talking about the silent divorce, where people are not
Yeah.
talking technically to each other. They are hearing each other,
Right, right.
but they're listening, and that sometimes end up in an actual physical divorce, and sometimes they continue in the dark. The, so, for example, if you ask Abuna Sam and Natick, who's an American-born and raised priest, about a real cause of marital problem in our community, he will say that we lack the proper pure culture of dating. We get the kids to get engaged, get married, and then we are dealing with problems afterwards. So that's the first layer, that the dating process in an Egyptian or Egyptianized culture is not clear. Is not in many parents they like equate this with sin, with fornication, while it can be very pure, very constructive, and very edifying in a way.
So you're saying the problem is that people don't get a chance to get to know each other in dating in a healthy way?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Just to
Like,
clarify, because I don't think the implication is that like, you know, people should be doing more, especially physically. It's just,
oh no,
not
no,
just
no,
right.
I'm
Like
talking
it's
in a
just
proper
like
way.
right. It's the stigma of any kind of dating because the assumption is that if you're dating, then you're doing something sort of out of bounds
Yeah,
from a physical standpoint,
yeah. Which
which
is
is not
equivalent,
necessarily the case.
which we can equate this to in Egypt a long period of engagement. Like they get whatever blessing of the rings, stay a year, and then another year of official engagement because of the cultural issues over there and some legal issues, and then they get married. But but here in the States, 21st century, I think even a longer period of proper, pure dating is necessary. So
Well, let
that's the
me ask you a
first one.
question. Let me
Yeah.
ask you a question. I'm going to guess, and I could be wrong, but the church in Egypt, as far as being is probably more westernized than the Coptic Church in America. I'm going to guess. I don't know. Maybe it's
They
not.
are they are very right. In some places in Egypt, there is a little bit more open mentality than here because in some churches in the land of immigration, I know you don't like this term, but it's accurate for in my point.
It
For
was
this
accurate.
context, at least it is.
At least in this context, the leaders or the servants, they want to preserve a false sanctity of the church and the community. So, no, no, we are preserving the faith, we are preserving the purity of our people, and can sometimes get stricter
Right.
than the current 2025 Coptic community in some churches in Egypt, like, for example, bigger cities in Upper Egypt, proper Asyut, proper Minya. They are actually more open than some of the churches here.
So what's divorce like there? Are they seeing as
Okay.
much divorce as we are, or it just doesn't exist either? Because if they are being more open and there's not more divorce, then we are doing something wrong. But if they're being more open and they're seeing just as much divorce as we are, then
Yeah, so here is the complexity. Let's talk about divorce here in the States and divorce back in Egypt.
okay.
In Egypt, there is a lot of legal issues between the state and the church because we have multiple Christian sects. They need to agree on a certain law. They proposed it, it was rejected, back and forth. So, in order to get a church divorce in Egypt, you need to get a state divorce first, and then the church will ratify it. If the church thinks that there is a legit cause for divorce, and that's changed after 2012, where it was much stricter before, like it was only for actual adultery or change of religion, to now there is more inclusion, violence, separation, um, kind of what they call it, not emotional adultery, like you don't have to prove a very physical.
Emotional abuse being like,
Yeah,
انت
so there are
كلبة
more,
امك وحشة things like this.
not to that extent.
Oh, that's even worse.
Okay, so there is a little bit more um, open doors for destroyed families, but you need to go through the legal process. Here in the States, it's very easy to get a state divorce,
Hmm.
and the church ratify it before or after. That's not, it can kind of go in parallel, and you know better than me for this. But this change in the mentality of the Coptic Church from 2012, before and after, in my opinion, is actually more pastorally orthodox and more merciful. Do we have more cases of divorce now compared to before? I think we have more solutions because the process is you go to the clerical council, you get counseling, and in many cases, with some guidance, the case for divorce is resolved. Like, if, for example, there is a case of drug addiction, of pornography, of lack of physical intimacy, when the couples like they get more counseling, they can work on their issues. Yes, the number of divorce cases, I don't have statistics. I think it's increasing comparably because first of all, the population is growing. Second, we have more media, so we know it more. And third, we have more escape ways for families that are destroyed, especially with abuse, with separation for 5, 6, 7 years. Here in the States, I think it's, and I'm not, I don't have data, I don't have information, but it's much easier to open a file or to file a case. And in many cases, the reasons that lead to this situation can be solved with a little bit more counseling, more prayer, more pastoral care, and more understanding from the spouses. Do we see more divorces in American born, American raised couples or second generation couples like you and Mina, for example, or do we see more divorces among newcomers? Or like me, for example, I've been here for 18 years, for example, but I'm not an American born or raised. I'm not a second generation. I'm still considering myself a first generation. I think the number of divorce in the newcomers in the first generation is higher than the second generation or the American born and raised because there is a lot of adjustments, there is a lot of comparison. Like I struggle till now to understand the American society. Till now, 18 years. Like when I read a book, for example, a book club, men's service or whatever, I have my Google Translate next to me. Even when Mina start talking about his esoteric like terms that I don't really understand, I have Google Translate next to me. And I speak English like 24/7. I've learned English since my early childhood. English actually is my third foreign language, but I still struggle. Imagine a family who are struggling with English, struggling with culture, struggling with money,
Mm.
how they can deal in a land of immigration. So it's easier for them here, in my opinion, to open a case for divorce. And the church need to have more prayer, more selfless pastoral care, and more counseling services. And like I'm picking on Mina's wife, Mary, like she saw an interaction between me and my wife, which was a very Egyptian interaction. Like I asked her where, like they were on a trip to New York, and I had my son who was 5, and we're going out to him class, and I didn't find his jacket. So I called her, "Where is his sweater? Where is his jacket?"
Right.
So Mary was surprised. How come I call her to ask for this? It's very Egyptian. Like she takes care of this stuff. I don't know.
Right, right. It's not Egyptian. I would do the same thing. I'm like, I have no idea
Well,
what this stuff is.
so Mary told me something. Told me, I think I need to counsel you a little bit marital counseling. So we need to do this more and more and explain. And it's not an easy solution. It's a layered and complex. And I assume, although assumption is not right, I assume a lot of our problems, a lot of the conflicts that the priests are seeing, the servants are seeing, stems from um, a misunderstanding of the basic of marriage, which is the physical intimacy. We overlook those stuff. We spiritualize. Um, we have false asceticism. We have false shame and guilt around those stuff. I remember one time, one person in our church spoke about Abu Musa Gohari, who passed away 4 or 5 years ago. And he used to ask, what about this particular topic, the physical intimacy? And if this is going on with mutual acceptance, with mutual love, so everything else will fall around and the life will continue and they will have a better and stronger relationship. But if we overlook the basic of marriage, what's different between me and my friend or me and my wife? A lot of things, but the basic thing is the physical intimacy.
Right, right. Which is something we're as humans hardwired with. I mean, it is part of who we are as human beings, as God created us. As I mean, even if you don't believe in God, this
As
is how
mammals.
yeah, this is how we evolved, as yeah. So why do you think that's ignored? Because of
So
Augustine? You think
if
Augustine
you are
messed it all up?
slicing,
I think
if you are
Augustine
slicing,
messed up sex.
what?
I
Sorry?
think Saint Augustine messed up sex. So I think that's
Maybe,
probably
maybe, yeah. But in our understanding as Egyptian, I think the Islamic influence on the Coptic Church for 13th century has an effect.
how? How? Explain.
Oh, how? So Islam is not a promiscuous religion, but it focuses on many parts of the dogmas and the regulation on the different aspect of relations. So we as Copts, I think, and that's my own interpretation, we are kind of having a defense mechanism. No, we are not like those. We are different. We don't do this. We fast. We are a church of monasticism, of asceticism, and we understand this in the wrong way. Actually, Saba Esper, who is the metropolitan of the Greek Antiochian Orthodox Church in America, a fabulous guy, a fabulous prelate, just issued a pastoral message for Christmas talking exactly about this particular point. He spoke about contraception, about marriage, about the sanctity of marriage, and about how we misunderstand asceticism, or how we don't really appreciate the gift of God in its natural context. And we ignore the elephant in the room. And by ignoring the elephant in the room, we have a very sharp rise in pornography addiction in Egypt and in here. And it's not in the Coptic Church, it's
everywhere.
worldwide, everywhere. But we as Orthodox Christian, we need to have a mechanism of dealing with this pandemic, which which need to be different than avoidance or than like, oh, we don't do those things. We don't do the things. We need to understand ourselves, our bodies, our relation. We need to work on that. We need to sanctify every aspect of the married life. In my, I'm not sure if I'm depicting the truth about the current situation of marriage and divorce in the Coptic Church, but that's my observation.
I think anything that we're going to say is going to be inadequate, right? And I
Yeah.
don't think any of us is claiming to either have a solution, which would be crazy,
Oh,
or even a complete understanding of the problem, which I think is what we're at least trying to wrap our heads around. And I think that, it's really like it's a brave thing that Mitch, put us on this track to say like, hey, this is something that we need to talk about. And I'd love for the solution to be just, oh, well, just plan better and it'll be fine. Or, oh, just communicate and it'll be better. Like, no, no. Like, oh, well, just lay down the law. Like, no, that's not. And I think we brought up two or at least three actually different cultures that are contributing to this. The American culture, the Egyptian culture in America, the Egyptian culture in Egypt, the Islamic culture, and the influence on us. And I think all of these are also going to be contributing factors, right? So if you didn't, do as Mitch recommended, which is to play Moneyball, you didn't plan, you didn't communicate, you didn't do sort of a pre-wedding powwow of like what are our shared agreements. You don't know yourself as well as you should, which I think is, I mean, to different degrees, right? I don't think any of us knows himself or herself 100% before marriage, right? So whether you're, bumbling around in like the 20-30% self-awareness, or you're in your mid 20s or early 30s and you happen to be very, very self-aware, you're still, in like the 60-70% range, right? Like right
still
now,
an idiot.
I don't know where I am, right? I
Yeah.
know I'm much more self-aware than I was even a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and like in a completely different stratosphere compared to where I was when I got married at 27. And I think all of these things are going to be contributing factors. For me, the way that I, at least understand it for myself is very similar to any other personal or interpersonal shortcoming. And we talked about this actually in the 11th and 12th grade Sunday school class, which is the passions, where if we see a gap between where we are and where we should be, what's stopping us from closing that gap is going to be one of eight things that were taught by Evagrius, documented by John Cassian, brought into the Western Church, and converted into the seven deadly sins. These are, not things that we believe in as Orthodox. They are things that we ascribe to not as the seven deadly sins, but as the eight thoughts that lead us to have a distance between ourselves and God. And this distance between ourselves and God are going to be things that distance us from each other as well, right? Because if we're converging on God together, then we should be not just getting closer to God, but getting closer to each other. And if we're diverging from God, then we're not just diverging from God, we're diverging from each other. And I think for different people, it's going to be different things. And, the eight thoughts are food, sex, anger, things, dejection, acedia, vanity, and pride. Those are the eight thoughts. And it's complex when you're dealing with two people that might have completely different passions, right? One person is vanity, the other one is pride. Those seem like they're similar, but they're very, very different. One is looking for approval from others. One doesn't need approval from anybody. They're just better than everybody, right? One person struggles with the lust and anger. The other one struggles with things and dejection, and everybody kind of goes off into their own path and their own struggle. And if they're not struggling enough within themselves and struggling against their passions to become closer to God and become closer to the person that God is asking them to become, then that's naturally going to create a rift between them and their spouse, right? Oh, I don't need to deal with my anger management problem. That that doesn't make you just a jerk. That makes you a bad spouse, right? And any one of these eight things could become, I think, an obstacle to marriage.
Yeah, definitely. I think la last time you laid it very well. It's a process of kenosis or emptying ourselves and a process of struggle and grace. Like we go back and forth in a trip.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's not just a death of self in the marriage. It's a death of self in general, right? Whether
Yep.
we're talking about the marriage or our jobs or our service or our expectations of God just between him and me, right? Like, hey, like I thought you were gonna help me out with this thing. It's like, not now. What do you mean not now? Like I'm tired of waiting. Like I'm sick of you. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of myself. I'm sick of everything, right? And being able to patiently wait and say, okay, if not now, I may not even get the answer of when, but if I believe God when God says that all things work together for the good of those who love him, then I'm willing to trust in that promise, right? Because faith comes with a promise. It's not just hope, which is something that's like out there in the ether, or optimism that's based on a tangible scientific expectation, right? It's faith in God that God has promised us that we will overcome these things. I think the struggle often is I'm trying and the other person isn't trying. And obviously, we all think that we're trying and nobody else is trying, right? We think that in our jobs, we think that in our service, we think that in our like we disproportionately estimate how hard we're trying, and we disproportionately overestimate how much we're trying, and we disproportionately underestimate how much everybody else is trying,
Mhm.
right? Because we see how hard we're working. We don't see how hard everybody else is working. But I think that's part of part of the grace that we need.
Do you think Mitch would be satisfied with this conversation, or
No,
what?
no, Mitch isn't satisfied with anything.
Well, he will ask the same question, where you draw the line.
Yeah, I think so.
And that's a legit question. We are talking about like general stuff, but cheating, do you draw a line when there is cheating? Physical
What do you
abuse.
mean draw a line to cheating? What do you mean?
Like if
Oh,
you get cheated on, do you just say this is over?
Oh.
yeah. Physical abuse.
So you're saying just because God gives you the out, do you have to take the out?
Right. And Sharif brought this up earlier. He kind of alluded to it. He didn't mention it specifically, but before 2012, if a spouse was being abused, that was not grounds for
Yeah,
divorce. It was
physical
just
abuse
it
was
was just
not.
kind of
Yeah.
like, eh. Like,
The salib attack, mom.
yeah, like, carry
Exactly.
your cross like the rest of us. It's like, no, like, I don't, I don't want to. But now, even if it is one of sort of like the traditional outs, right? Like this is grounds for divorce. This is grounds for annulment, right? Like if I go and I take this piece of information to the diocesan bishop and I say, tuck, 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 the diocesan bishop goes, okay, like you've got all the cards. Like, what do you play? And do you say Jin or do you say, Basra or do you say Konkan? Like, do you say, what do you say? Or do you just hold on to the cards and you say, actually, no, like, I'm gonna keep them in my coat. I don't want to play these cards. And I don't think there's a right answer to that. And I don't think that we're
Let's talk about cheating, for example, or about adultery in marriage. We have heard stories, me myself, I heard stories from people who I know that they were they reconciled their marriage after the cheating or after the adultery. Is this right? Is this wrong? Is this uh, pastorally acceptable for the sake of the kids? Okay, sorry. So there is no hard line here. So my son is yelling. Let me go and close the door again. Sorry.
I think it's look, there's no right answer for that one.
No. And I think that we're actually more likely to make the right decision for the wrong reasons.
What do you mean?
Well, like, I think in an idealized sense, right? We're saying like, oh, well, I had all the cards and I didn't play them, right? And you think that like, oh, that's so magnanimous, that's so generous, that's so Christian, right? And I think, to Sharif's question about like, okay, like, if a spouse cheats on you, and you have the right to say like, this is over, um, what do? Right? Do you use that or not? And I think there are sort of truly Christian, truly Christ-like, truly magnanimous reasons, which is no, I want to stick it out, and this is my cross to bear, and in kenosis, I will endure this. I don't believe that marriage is intended to make me happy. I believe that marriage is intended to make me holy. And I'm gonna stick this out. But I think that doing the right thing, or maybe not the right thing, the thing that appears to be the right thing, right? The thing that appears to be the sacrificial thing is sometimes done for secondary gain, right? Like, oh, well, I don't want to be looked at that way. Like, I don't want to be ostracized by the community, right? It might be just an extension of my own vanity, right? And my own image of self that I don't want to destroy. And I want to make sure that this is something that is preserved to posterity. And I don't want to tarnish my legacy by being that guy who was, tarnished by this event.
Or you can be Hosea and Gomer and just and stick it
Well,
out.
So actually
yeah,
tell the story of
but there is
Hosea.
something. There is something. You can be exactly sacrificial as Christ-like while pursuing a divorce.
Right,
Like sometimes it is saving the other person, saving the kids.
right, right,
But
right.
here comes the economia of the church, I think.
Can you? So I either want Ralph to tell us more about Hosea or Sharif to tell us more about how you can pursue the divorce for the salvation of the other.
Sharice's much more interesting. So go.
Yeah, so
But the Hosea thing is funny too.
no, out of context, I'll say, but anyway. So if a family is dysfunctional and there is a sort of abuse, a sort of cheating,
Sort of cheating and it sort of cheating.
يعني
I don't
دلع
understand what
كده
that means. I don't understand what that means.
like, like there is cheating that is not physical.
That's
So
not cheating. I don't know what that means.
that's
You
having
don't have
fun.
you
Okay.
don't have a right to get divorced because your wife is complaining about you to her boss.
No, no, I'm talking about more serious stuff, like people can get into a relation, but not to the physical acts. So by pursuing
Like an emotional dependency on someone, right? Where
something like
like
that, yeah.
you develop a relationship with someone at work, and all you do is complain about your spouse, and then
That's
that
horrible.
person well, but I mean
I
that
don't.
that
Okay,
is
so that's
right.
emotional adultery.
Yeah.
That's what you mean. Okay, I
Yeah,
Yeah.
understand. But that's not grounds for divorce.
that's not
That-
grounds for divorce. But if there is, like in the process of getting to a full-blown blown cheating, in the process of getting to a full-blown
which
physical
is worse, by the way? Which is worse? Which is worth physically? Well,
physical abuse or
no,
cheating.
no,
No.
physically cheating on someone, right? Or you using meanest thing, going into work every day and complaining about your wife to somebody.
That's
Which
the difference between acute myocardial infarction and cancer prostate, where you can live with it 20 years.
you tell me. I don't. I'm not a doctor. I don't know about
I mean, I
it.
get the analogy perfectly, but like
So
I guess it's
explain.
still a little opaque.
Yeah, explain it for us. Explain it
So
to me.
Maybe
Nina's
from a
example, yeah, tell.
from a legal standpoint, it would be um, murder or embezzlement and bleeding the company dry, and the company is supposed to be, saving widows and orphans, and that money, instead of going to widows and orphans, is going to your yacht.
I say embezzlement is worse.
Well, you pick your poison.
Yeah,
No, I'm sorry to
one
get.
of them is like this is a clearly very obviously physically bad thing.
Right.
The other one is, well, you can kind of justify it. Oh, like, was he? Oh, but like, who's the real, loser here? Like, like, well, what was I supposed to do? Like, but clearly, like, it's on the level of something that's
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah,
problematic.
yeah, yeah.
I
I'm
can be
sorry, I
more
cut you off.
destructive too. So if you go by the example that it's not clear, it's not like an acute heart attack,
Yeah.
but something is going on, something is going on. The other person is losing his salvation. The family are struggling. The kids are struggling. The kids are learning from the bad behavior or from the inappropriate behavior, especially if there is like a pornography addiction in the picture or a drug addiction in the picture. So a spouse, whether the husband or wife, when he takes the decision or she takes the decision to go for divorce, it's a salvific action for everyone, for the spouse
Mm.
who is suffering, for the kids, and for the other person, because that's a wake-up call.
Hmm.
But again, that's why what I love about Orthodoxy and about our Coptic churches in particular, there is a lot of discernment in this. There is a lot of holding hands. There is a lot of pastoral intervention in this. I'm not saying that for everything you need to ask your father of confession that's right or wrong. That's nonsense. But it's nonsense if it's taken out of context. But the whole system of a spiritually guided trip in marriage and in divorce, that's something that we can, or we are doing, I think, a good job in the Coptic Church, and we need to work more on this.
How can we work more on it?
Awareness, counseling, prayer, prayer, prayer.
Do you think counseling works? Or do you
Without
think it just
prayer,
gets you more self-involved? And
well, without prayer, it's nonsense.
I I know a lot of people who go to counseling end up getting divorced because they just end up focusing on themselves, you know?
Well,
Like I don't know
that's
if
the wrong
therapy is a good
counseling.
thing. Yeah, yeah.
That's the wrong counseling. Like, if a counseling is to self-justify or like
Right,
feel good about stuff,
right.
that's sugarcoating stuff.
Right. So counseling, but going to the wrong counselor can
Oh,
screw
yeah.
you up even totally. Does our church have enough?
No,
Uh, no.
like in our
So
church,
so
maybe it's three or four.
do you think what's lacking is the quantity or the quality of our counseling?
I think every
Both.
priest thinks that they're a counselor just because they're a priest. All of a sudden you're shoved into a role where every كل من هب وأدب thinks that you are thinks that you're everything, thinks that you're a theologian, thinks that you're a counselor. Where should my kid go to school? Where and the horrible thing is instead of the humility of a priest saying, "Look, I don't know," they just say, maybe he should apply to Brown." I mean, instead of just shutting up and saying, "I have no idea," so all of a sudden they're giving, opinions about, plumbing in their house and marriage and things that, some priest who's been married for 7 minutes is already is already giving marriage counseling. It's like, are you ridiculous? Just because you have a beard doesn't mean you're wise. But they don't know that, they don't know that.
Well, I think in my local church or my local area, the majority they know that.
Oh, they know that they don't know?
I think so. Maybe coming by experience. I'm not sure what happened 10, 15 years ago, but 2025, I think like the majority of the servants leads, the priest in my area, which is the same as Mina, I think they know that they don't know sometime.
That's great. I mean, that's humility is a good thing.
How they reach this level, I don't know.
But I,
Watching
I,
a
I still, I'm curious about what you said that we do this very well. And then Ralph said we don't do it nearly enough, and you said yes. So how can
Very
it be
well
both?
in comparison. Very well in comparison.
Comparison to
For example, in comparison to the vast majority of non-apostolic churches, where it's okay, you get divorced, it's okay, you come here, you go there. In comparison to the other traditional Middle Eastern churches, where the involvement of the priest or the servant in the life of the family is much less than the Coptic church.
Hmm.
In comparison, I can say with the Catholic Church because they have strict rules. It's all legalistic over
Hmm.
there, in my opinion. But this involvement, like, and I think I asked Mina one time, what make you stay in the Coptic Church till this day, and what makes me stay in the Coptic Church till this day, and it comes down to the pastoral care.
That's why you're here?
Yeah,
I was equally shocked.
I had
So
the
and
chance to
actually
join.
Mitch isn't here, but he genuinely believes in the high quality um, pastoral care that we get, and his concept of the abuna um, is very, 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 very high. And I think, we only got a couple minutes left. I think this is a great place to leave off. And this is a great episode for Mitch to watch. And, like he can come back and like we'll start by getting his reaction. But I
Yeah,
think the
yeah, yeah.
first thing that he'll do is to agree with Sharif and say the Coptic Abuna is a superstar. And this is like,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. And he'll say like, that we have exalted this person to be sort of like the pinnacle of our community. And for that to be like a very like beautiful and very valid
And
thing
he thinks
that
it's
like,
well deserved.
yeah. And he's like, this guy like gives up his entire life to father the flock. And for us to put this person here is very, very, very appropriate and very, very well justified. And it's possible to say that, right? And also still say, don't get ahead of yourself. Like, you were an orthopedic surgeon yesterday.
All right,
Like
slow your
you
roll, bro.
right. Like maybe this guy who was a mental health counselor for 20 years has a little bit more experience than you do doing mental health counseling as a priest. And understanding that like shift in role needs to also come with appropriate education, humility, shift in perspective, experience on the job, and for that to be so it's possible to have those two things, not necessarily intentionally with each other, but like, in parallel with each other. Like we have a very, very, very high regard for the priest. At the same time, we do have a reasonable and fair expectation that, they approach the job with a humility, and let us bring you up, and you can sort of like be responsible for grounding yourself. And I think the potential is there. I think we have the infrastructure and the ability to set in motion a real ongoing evaluation, if not solution, but management of these problems, and we have the potential for that. But I don't think we're there yet, Sharif. Do you
Yeah,
agree?
but and we'll never be there. It's a continuous work of improvement.
Yeah.
But I don't want to compare, but it doesn't seem that pastoral care has the same weight in other communities and other denomination as we do. And I think that's a combined effort of Abuna Bishoy Kamel and Ambashnuda.
Yeah.
Both those people, you can agree or disagree. That's not the issue. They play the Coptic priest situation that we are in now is a direct result of the effort of Abuna Bishoy Kamel and Ambashnuda, whether you agree or disagree of some of their attributes, thoughts, writing, but transforming the mentality of a Coptic priest from an officiator of the service to uh, a Sunday school servant who is becoming a priest. This shift made the pastoral care kind of exceptional in the Coptic Church, with a
Mm.
lot of flaws, with a lot of problems, with a lot of setbacks, but it's a work in progress.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like in the idealized sense, it's perfect. And I think that's something, and I say this all the time. We want to set an unfair standard and grow into it, right? And if the unfair standard is that the priest is all of these things, right? And we hold the priest to that unfair standard, and the priest holds himself to that unfair standard, and we have the grace and the compassion and the understanding to say, like, listen, we understand we're holding you to an unfair standard, but that's the job that you signed up for. Like I said, I think this is a great place to pick up where we left off with Mitch. So
But but
Yeah.
but let me add something. It's not the job that he signed up for, that's the job that we signed up for. Because the servant, the deacon is the eye of the bishop. The servant is the eye of the priest. So Abuna X, Abuna Y, Abuna Z, it's not him, it's us.
hmm,
How
okay,
I'm helping him, how I'm praying for him, and sometimes directing him in a gentle way,
okay.
how I'm supporting his family. So
Mhm.
all of this, it's not Abuna X, he signed up for the job, is the church,
Hmm,
we, the congregation, chose X to become a priest or contributed to his ordination as a priest. We are offering a sacrificial gift to God, and we need to support this gift by all means. So the thing that I don't like in our Coptic community is the continuous criticism of clergy. Yeah, constructive criticism is okay, but the continuous nonsense criticism, oh, he did that, he did this. So how
right,
about you? What did you do for your priest?
right. How are you part of the solution?
Our part of the solution.
Right. Okay. Thank you for the clarification, Sharif. I completely agree. Ralph, do you want the last word, or should
No,
we?
I have a lot to think about. It was, Sharif's, that last part about, Emba Shnuda and Abuna Shoy was something I never knew. And more importantly, something I've never experienced. So I think I didn't know that was part of the deal. To me, I'm like, Wow.
Like, is this what I'm supposed to be
Is,
expecting?
is this what I'm supposed to be? I wish you did. I mean,
No,
it's
but
good.
like I'm telling you, like I said, we'll see. Mitch will get the first
Yeah,
word
yeah.
next time. Um, and I do think that we're like I was floored when I heard Mitch say this. And I look forward to him sharing us with us his thoughts on I Mustache You something. And
Hi.
I'll try to keep the
A Merry White People Christmas.
Merry Christmas for everyone, Copts and whites.
Do you guys do your presents on the 25th or the 7th?
No, we've the 25th is Santa Claus
Right,
Christmas.
the
The
presents.
7th is the Feast of the
Jesus.
Incarnation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like both of them being split.
I
I hope
love
they
this,
never
right?
come together.
Exactly.
I
Right.
love I
The
love
kids get
Santa.
double prizes. So,
Yeah, that's right.
Wait, you give presents on the 7th also?
Sharif, you give
well,
presents?
Tata and Gid on the 7th,
Oh,
we
okay,
on the
then. Yeah.
25th. So
Oh,
it's,
really? Okay. All right. Till next time,
All
guys.
right, guys. Good night. Thank
take
you.
care.